Well, we can talk about our day, right? We started our morning in the office, working.
Yeah, and then we promptly left there and went straight to the airport to get on a plane.
Got on a plane.
And flew to San Diego.
Sat next to two fucking cunts that refused to turn their electronics off through the entire goddamn flight.
I don't understand it.
I don't understand it either, Gus.
I looked over there, and the bitch was using her iPhone, right?
Using her iPhone. We're fucking flying. We're taxiing.
And I was like, that's totally an electronic device, right? And the flight attendant comes by and says, you need to turn it off, ma'am. She's like, oh, yeah, that's right. So she turns it off, and we get off. We're 5 feet off the ground, and she pulls her SLR out to start showing. She take pictures of the woman next to her.
She's taking flash photography as we're taking off on the plane.
If that had gotten in the rearview mirror of the pilot, we'd have been toast.
That stupid bitch and her dumb friend put all of our lives in danger. Why do we have rules as a society, Gus? You know what? Fuck it. I'm not paying taxes anymore. This lady showed me, yeah, I'll just pull out my fucking camera. I'll pull out my iPhone. I'll pull out my fucking vibrator. I don't care that I'm putting 245 people at risk. There are small babies on that plane, but whatever. Who cares? Because I wanted to look at photos of my dog. So, I'm not going to pay my taxes anymore. I'm going to shoot a cop.
You see the video of that A380 hitting that little plane? That reinforces our rant about air travel.
Exactly. Imagine if you're one of two cunts sitting in a plane, right? And you've got your fucking camera out and you're browsing through your photos of your fucking dog, and all of a sudden your plane does a 90-degree turn. You don't have any teeth left because you just ate that fucking camera.
Or it flies out of your hand and hits a baby in the eye.
You just blinded a baby because you wanted to show your friend cute pictures of your fucking dog.
Tell me if this is exciting. You're going to your plane. You look at the plane. It's the Shamu plane.
If I'm going to be in an airplane crash, might as well be in one where you're a giant killer whale, right?
Yeah, if you land in water as the Shamu plane.
You fly over a kid who's like got his arm in the air and he's jumping. He's like, yeah!
If I worked in the airline, I would fuck with people just on purpose. Like, I would drive one of those little buggies outside. I would bring one up, like, filled with a trailer full of fish. Just drive to the front of the plane and not explain why.
Throw it at the cockpit.
Smack. We are unsympathetic. If we're sitting next to somebody on a plane, and they're like, I'm a very nervous flyer, we go, well, don't worry, we fly all the time. And then as soon as we're going to take off, I'll turn to Jeff and I'll say casually, yeah, we're not going fast enough to take off. Or, you know, if there's a noise on the plane, I go, whoa.
That's not right.
What was that? My wife's a bad flyer because she got in a flight that was so turbulent, all the overhead bins opened. I want to kill this asshole she sat next to on the plane. Because when they started to have turbulence, he said, I'm a traveling salesman. I fly every single day. I go through this kind of stuff all the time. And as the turbulence got worse and worse, he pulls out pictures of his kids to say goodbye. He's got like Janie and Billy on the fold-out tray, and he's like, bye, kids. Take care of each other.
Tell your mom I love her.
So she's a bad flyer.
The question is, since he's a traveling salesman, did he pull out the pictures of his secret family as well and say goodbye to them?
This is my regular family and this is my Eskimo family.
I remember seeing a video where someone attached an iPhone to like a remote control plane, and they needed a way to touch the little button, and so they like attached a hot dog to it that would like make it take photos. I swear to God.
I think I read a story about one of those falling in Iran, and then being pissed off about it. Found a probe and a hot dog.
All right.
An American flag.
I just imagine the guys in the room saying, so we're going to get it in the air. How are we going to take the phone to take pictures?
Then one guy's like eating a hot dog.
There was
like, everyone turns
there was a guy that had like
yes.
I had a miserable flight up to Toronto. I'm sitting, I got my favorite seat, the exit row, window seat, happy as can be, and I see this young black couple coming down the aisle, and the girl ends up sitting next to me in the middle, and the dude sits like a row in front of us, but over on the other side of the plane. So I recognize, here's this couple, they got separated, it's miserable. Sometimes I travel with someone and I want to sit with them, so I said to the guy, I go, hey man, do you want my seat so that you two can sit next together? I go, do you want my seat? And he looks at me, I go, do you want my seat? I'll give you my seat and I'll take yours. They didn't know each other. I assumed the two black people were a couple.
Oh my God! Did he look at you like you were a lunatic?
He's like, oh, we're not together. And I'm like, okay. I was so embarrassed, and I had to sit next to the girl the rest of the goddamn flight.
God!
I'm surprised he didn't kick the door and push you out.
That makes me wonder, too, because landing and crashing are pretty much the same mechanic. At what point does a landing become a crash?
When the plane is no longer in one piece.
Is that what it is?
I don't know.
You got to break something off.
I think it's when the plane is touching the ground without a wheel.
A crash is a landing from which you cannot take off again. That's an interesting distinction. So if you're out of gas, you crashed. The pilot goes home, plane crash.
Someone opens the emergency door, crashed.
The 5 signs of crash. 1, no wings. 2, all burned up. 3, passengers outside the plane. I don't know what the last 2 are. I don't remember. So those are the 5 signs of crash.
There's another story on here that I read last night that's fucking frightening. This plane in India was flying. The pilot gets up, goes to the bathroom, and while he's gone, the co-pilot decides to adjust his seat. And then when he adjusts his seat, he knocks the control stick so that the plane starts diving. And the pilot has to run out of the bathroom and come back and help him pull the jet back out to stabilize it. So
can you imagine what that must have been like for the pilot? The co-pilot's probably always like, "Oh, I got it, man. Go to the bathroom." And he's like, "I don't know." And he's like, the one time he's like, "You know what? You've been my co-pilot for like 4 years now. I'm gonna trust you with the controls." He sits down on the toilet. He starts taking a dump. Probably constipated, and then immediately the plane falls. Boop! And he's like, I knew it. He's like, do I have time to squeeze this out before I go save the plane? Or did he bust out with his pants around his ankles? When they finally get the plane righted, does the pilot then say, okay, I'm going to go back and finish my shit? Or is he like, I'm going to have to hold this one for a couple hours because there's no way I'm leaving this room again?
Or he turns to the co-pilot like, you're going to have to pay a standard ticket fare because obviously you have no idea what you're doing up here.
Go sit in coach. And not the exit row. I don't trust you. Who's going to replace me as co-pilot? Anyone. Literally anyone else on this plane.
I think there was a goat in the cargo bay that seemed kind of sharp.
I got on a flight with Matt. We went through security together. He got his bag pulled, and they went to go through it, and I stood there for a minute, and the lady's like, do you have anything you need to tell me about in your bag? And he's like, no. And then the lady pulled out a knife, like a pocket knife, and Matt goes, oh, that's weird. I guess I left that in my bag. I didn't even realize I had it. And she's like, no problem. Made him go through again. Flagged his bag again, had a second knife in his bag. I'm surprised he's not in jail, but he should be. I mean, the dude tried to go through with 2 knives. Then he immediately got like a large coffee and spilt it all over the ground. he was having the worst morning ever.
You guys fly a lot. Do you ever get nervous?
The only time I ever came close to getting nervous, Gus and I were flying back from South Carolina, and I looked out at the wing, and there was like black ooze dripping out of the wing.
There was also duct tape right there on the wing.
We just laughed it off, but I was pretty sure we were going to die. One time you and I were flying somewhere to an event, and it was 2 weeks after a pilot got busted flying drunk, and Gus and I were the last people to get off the plane. As we're getting off the plane, the pilot door opens up, and the pilot like kind of saunters out to say something to the flight attendant, and he had a huge cocktail in his hand, and he looks at us, and we see him, and he froze like a deer in the headlights. So he looked at his cocktail, and he looked at us, and looked back at his cocktail, and we just started laughing and walked out, and he, to my knowledge, he's still standing there. That was awesome. Hey, where was it we were flying when we saw the lady start crying because she requested a gluten-free meal and that they didn't get the message? And she got in this fight with the flight attendant. He was like, well, can I give you this vegetarian meal? And she's like, I don't want it. I wanted the gluten one that I ordered. And he's like, well, I'm really sorry. She's like, I haven't eaten in 12 hours. And he's like, please take this vegetarian meal. And she's like, no, just take it away. And she's just like sobbing and crying. So he gives the vegetarian meal to somebody else. And then like 2 minutes later, she's like, okay, I'm hungry. I'll take the vegetarian meal. And he's like, well, we're all out of vegetarian meals. All we have left is this one chicken meal. And she's like, he's like, do you want it? And she's like, I don't have a choice. And he goes to give it to her, and he dropped it.
Oh, my God.
And it was the last fucking meal.
Oh, my God.
And so she was the only person on the plane that didn't get to eat.
A couple years ago, when Jason and I were flying to the UK, we had to connect through Chicago. We flew Austin, Chicago, and Chicago to London. And our flight in Chicago was delayed, like every flight there. Except they said it was delayed because there were mechanical issues with the plane. So 1.5 hours, and they're like, okay, we fixed the mechanical problems with the plane. I'm like, finally. So, we get in line to board the plane. And I'm looking out the window at this giant plane we're about to get on. And they fire the engines up, and one of the engines under the left wing starts spitting out this huge, billowing black smoke. And I'm like, maybe they didn't fix this problem. Then we get on the plane, and the pilot comes on and going, apparently we're still having some issues with our air conditioning. Air conditioning's not working right now.
Right.
we're going to sit here for a while our mechanics try to fix it. And I remember I was aiming Bernie, and Bernie replied, rotten hell, asshole.
You're going to die. Josh, you were in a security line one time when they did a bomb drill.
Oh my God, that was the worst thing ever. I was in the international terminal at LAX, and I was getting close to the metal detectors. And then all of a sudden, like, some dude was going through the metal detector, and he ran through it instead of walking through it. And the security guards all yelled something. And I turned to my wife, and I said, did he yell bomb, 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 or run, run, run? And I stopped for a second, and I said, I guess it doesn't matter really either way which one he yelled.
You asked if we ever got nervous, Gav. Here's how nervous we don't get. Gus was sleeping on a plane, and I was kind of like half asleep. We were going in for descent, and everything's normal. All of a sudden, engines, wham, full speed. And we start revving, and then we just took off again. And Gus kind of wakes up, and he goes, "What's going on? What are we doing?" I said, "We were going to land, and we didn't land. Now we're taking off again." And Gus literally just shrugs, and then goes back to sleep. And that was it.
You know, I've never really gotten nervous flying. However, one time, for some reason, I did have, like, a mini freak out on a plane. When I was flying back from Japan, I was sitting there, and then, like, all of a sudden, I was like, I need to get off the plane. And then, like, the rational part of my brain was like, oh, shit, don't do this now. And then, so I went to the bathroom, and I locked myself in the toilet for, like, half an hour.
Don't you know what they call that? They call that a moment of clarity. You're like, holy fuck, this is my life.
I'm in a metal tube 35,000 feet over an ocean.
Yeah, those are your moments of rationality, when you're like, what the fuck am I doing? Gravity works. I've seen evidence my entire life. This fucking plane is bullshit.
Flight there was fine.
Yeah.
Flight back was something else.
Was that your story? You said you had a story.
Yeah, so I introduced Michael to the wonders of first class.
It's true.
So we sit down, and right before the plane takes off, Gary Busey shows up. Yeah. I was like, oh, fuck, that's cool. It's Gary Busey. You don't see that every day. And then at some point in the plane, I had to turn to the lady next to me, and I go, it's amazing how quickly you can go from, holy shit, that's Gary Busey, to, holy shit, would somebody shut Gary Busey the fuck up? Dude. If you made eye contact with him, you got sucked into a conversation.
He got a guy across from him, and the guy was just, like, sweating just to have a conversation with him. Like, Gary Busey was talking to him, but, like, interrogating him at the same time. And the guy's like, I'm a CPA? He's like, what? What are you? What do you do?
Yeah, Gary Busey can't hear
anything. The flight attendant asked, will you be dining with us today? I'm not kidding, like 9 fucking times.
Because he goes, what? You gotta speak up, honey. I can't hear you. What? And she's like a fucking inch from him. What? At some point, the poor woman, she goes, you know what? The guy next to you will explain it.
At one point, like, he's talking to the CPA, and the guy goes, you live in Austin? And he's like, what? Do you live in Austin? And he goes, this is America. I live where I'm standing. All right.
He had a ton of, like, homespun wisdom-y type shit like that. Gary's like, you been to Austin before? And they're like, no, it's our first time. And he's like, well, enjoy the weather. And they're like, yeah, I bet it's going to be hot as hell. And he goes, nah, I'm from Texas, and we got to say it in Texas. And I'm like, oh, this should be good. And he goes, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. And the guy's like, okay, why? And he's like, because it'll change. And they're like,
yeah.
All right.
Guy's just like, yeah, it's crazy. And he's like, no, it's not crazy. It's weather.
He did do that.
Like, okay, like, I'm just trying to go along with you, guy. Like, what do you want from me?
He got bused hard.
He got bused.
Oh yeah, Michael and I came with a new verb. You don't want to get bused.
No, not
if
at all.
Possible.
It was great to watch.
You're reminding me of something funny. So we were coming back from E3, and we went to the lounge. But we were sitting there, and we were having a bit of a laugh because we were listening to this guy right across from us. The guy looked like he was like 80, but he's on his phone, and he's like, no, I ordered the Pip-Boy edition, but they were sold out. So I got one on eBay. I got it for $300. So I'm all good. Yeah, I've got it. I was like, who's this old dude playing fucking Fallout 4 and ordering a Pip-Boy edition? He must have been in the industry. And while we're sitting there listening to him, this page comes over saying, Mike Barnes, please come back to the front area. Those of you who don't know, my name is Michael Burns. That's where Bernie comes from, is my last name, Burns. And they were paging Michael Barnes. And I go, are they saying Barnes? They're saying Barnes. It's not me. Then they paged again because the person didn't come. Michael Barnes, please come up. Recheck. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm going up. So I walked up, and I said to this lady, I'm Michael Burns. Are you paging Michael Barnes? She goes, I paged Michael Barnes. And I said, I'm Michael Burns. Are you saying Burns or Barnes? She goes, I paged Michael Barnes. Are you Michael Barnes? And I go, I'm Michael Burns. She goes, hold on a second. She goes, Bernie. And I go, what? And she goes, hold on. Bernie. The person to her left was named Bernie, this lady.
Oh,
she goes, Bernie,
God.
Did you page a Michael Burns? And she goes, Michael Barnes. And I go, okay, I'm fine. And this guy walks up and he goes, I'm Michael Barnes.
Was he old dude?
I said, I gotta get out of this. I gotta get out of this situation.
I can just imagine you being in this like spiral of crap, just pulling out a gun and shooting yourself in the face.
Who was on first? And it was so impromptu. That happened so naturally. When she goes, I paged Michael Barnes. I go, I'm Michael Barnes. She goes, hold on a second. Bernie. And I go, what? I was like, I must have seemed like an insane person to her.
I've come to the realization that I'm the best air passenger. But I took 3 flights recently. So the first flight, I get on the plane, I'm in the aisle, and there's a woman in the window. She makes me get up after we've sat down to, like, fiddle with our bags. I'm like, all right, could have done that earlier, but whatever. Then she gets up again and moves to a different seat as people are still boarding.
Oh.
So I was like, is this not your seat then? Then the people whose seat it is come along and they're like, you're in my seat. And she's like, oh, well, it didn't look very busy. And so I just took this seat. And they were like, well, that's our seat. So she made me get up again. So I've got up 4 times for this woman. Second flight, right? It's a flight to Germany. I'm in the aisle. The biggest, fattest German dude makes me get up. He sits there, pulls the armrest up.
Oh, no.
When I sit down, he's spilling like almost halfway into my seat. And I'm like, I can't sit on a 9-hour flight next to this.
Yeah.
Then I was gonna text Jeff something. He saw me using my phone. He was like, "Let me call my wife on that."
What?
And I was like, "Are you crazy?"
Let me call my
yeah,
wife
he's like,
on that.
"I need to call my wife. You let me call my wife?" And I was like, He was like, "Don't worry, it's not long distance." I was like, "What does that mean?"
How does
Like,
she know where
you don't know where my phone's registered to? I'm English on an American flight to Germany. You don't know where I'm from.
Well, maybe she was in his stomach, so it's not that far away.
Did you let him use your phone?
It's the worst.
No, I didn't. And I lied to him and I said it wouldn't work. And then I moved seats.